It started last night, or maybe it didn't. I was walking down the hallway of my house, the same hallway I've walked 1,000 times before when I froze. There was a door. A simple wooden door, nothing fancy, nothing alarming, except I had never seen it before. Yesterday, it definitely wasn't there. My heart started racing as I reached out to touch the handle, my fingers trembling. It was cold, smooth, and heavy in a way that made no sense. I live alone, and I've checked every corner of this house a dozen times. Windows, closets, even the basement, nothing new. I'm not prone to hallucinations, and I hadn't been drinking or sick. But here it was like it had grown out of the wall overnight. I stepped back, trying to convince myself it was a trick of the light, a shadow playing against the hallway. But the outline was sharp, the grain of the wood real. My dog didn't even react. He's usually the first to notice anything out of place. I grabbed my phone, my hand shaking, and started recording. Maybe I could explain it later, rationalize it somehow. Maybe it was just a door from another time, another reality, but the thought made me shiver. I tried the handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. Why would it be unlocked if it appeared out of nowhere? Questions started spinning in my mind. Where does it lead? Why did it appear now? Was this some kind of prank, a construction mistake, or was something far stranger? Every logical answer seemed weaker than the unease curling in my stomach. Something about the silence beyond the door felt alive, like it was watching me, waiting. I backed away, telling myself to sleep on it. But I couldn't. Even now, writing this, I can still see it. It's not just a door. It's a mystery, a challenge, maybe even a warning. And I have a choice to make. Ignore it, pretend it isn't there, or turn the handle and step inside. Tomorrow, I might find out. Or maybe it will disappear, leaving me questioning my own mind forever. But tonight it waits. I couldn't sleep that night. Every creak of the old house made my heart jump. Every shadow seemed to twitch with intention. I kept thinking about how normal everything had been yesterday, how routine, predictable, and safe. This house had been my home for years, yet suddenly it felt alien, like it had a secret it had been hiding from me all along. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the phone in my hands. My name is Alex. I'm 28, and I've lived alone here since I inherited the house from my grandmother. She loved old, mysterious things, books, trinkets, furniture with a story. She used to tell me that houses remember, that walls hold memories. I always thought it was poetic nonsense, something to make her house feel magical. Now, I wasn't so sure. The hallway, where the door had appeared, was a place I knew like the back of my hand. My morning coffee, the way the sunlight hit the walls at 3 o'clock, the old painting of the lake my grandmother loved, all familiar. And yet, this door hadn't been there yesterday. How could something materialize overnight without leaving any trace? I remembered odd things from the past few weeks, small things I'd shrugged off. A draft in a corner where no window was open, faint scratching sounds behind the walls, objects slightly moved when I came home. Always subtle, nothing I could prove. And now the door. It was impossible to ignore. I kept returning to it in my mind, thinking of what could lie beyond. A hidden room? A secret passage my grandmother never told me about? Or something stranger, something that defied explanation? The tension gnawed at me, mixing curiosity with fear. Part of me wanted to call someone, anyone, for help. But another part, the deeper, quieter part, whispered that this was mine to face. I tried to distract myself, scrolling through old photos of the house on my phone, hoping to spot any hint I'd missed. But the door didn't appear in any pictures. Not in the hallway from last week, last month, or even a year ago. It was like it had never existed until now. The more I thought about it, the more questions piled up. Why now? Why me? And most importantly, what would happen if I opened it? My chest tightened every time I imagined the unknown space beyond the wood. Something about the stillness around it made it feel alive, as if the house itself were holding its breath, waiting for me to decide. I finally got up, walking to the hallway again, drawn by a mix of fear and fascination. My hand hovered over the cold handle, hesitating. I could run, hide, pretend this was all a trick of my mind, but something in me knew that ignoring it wouldn't make it disappear. And yet, what if opening it changed everything? The next morning, I couldn't shake the door from my mind. Every thought, every routine, every step in the house seemed to circle back to it. I tried to focus on work, on emails, on the mundane tasks that usually ground me, but my attention kept snapping to the hallway. My hands itched to touch the handle, to peek behind the door, but I hesitated. Something in me feared what I might find. Then I remembered the old journal my grandmother kept. Dusty, leather-bound, with pages filled in her elegant handwriting. I hadn't opened it in years, but now I felt a strange pull. Maybe it held a clue, something that could explain the impossible. Sitting at the kitchen table, I carefully flipped through the pages. There were sketches of rooms I didn't recognize, notes about hidden compartments, and cryptic mentions of doors that appear when a house is ready. My grandmother had always been eccentric, but this was different. It was deliberate. The journal also revealed her warnings. Lines about curiosity and the danger of meddling with things humans are not meant to touch. I shivered. Could the door be one of those things? A portal? A test? My logical mind wanted to dismiss it, but deep down, a part of me wondered if she had been preparing me for this moment all along. Just as I was lost in thought, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You shouldn't open it. Not yet. My stomach dropped. How could someone know? I froze, glancing around the empty house. Was it a prank? But the tone felt urgent, almost desperate. And then another message. It sees you watching. It knows your fear. Panic and intrigue warred inside me. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to delete the messages, and convince myself it was nothing. But another part, a stubborn, reckless part, wanted to open the door immediately to confront whatever waited. I realized something uncomfortable. I was addicted to the suspense, craving answers even as fear rooted me in place. The day passed in a blur. Small things began happening. Objects slightly shifted from where I left them. My dog growled at corners of the hallway. I thought empty. Faint whispers seemed to echo through the walls when I was alone. I felt watched, as though the house itself had eyes. I couldn't tell if it was paranoia or reality. And then I remembered my neighbor, Mrs. Calloway. She'd always hinted that my grandmother's house was special, mentioning strange occurrences she'd witnessed as a child. Maybe she knew something, but calling her meant admitting that I was terrified, that I might be losing control. Pride and fear clashed. Could I trust her, or anyone, with this secret? That night, I returned to the hallway. The door seemed darker, heavier somehow, as if it absorbed the dim light around it. My hand hovered again, heart pounding. The messages, the journal, the shadows, they all converged into a single, unrelenting question. What was waiting behind that door? And more importantly, was I ready to face it? I couldn't stay away any longer. Every corner of the house felt charged, alive, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. I moved down the hallway slowly, my fingers brushing along the wallpaper, eyes fixed on the door. Each step echoed too loudly in the silence. The air was colder here, heavier, like it carried a warning I couldn't ignore. The messages on my phone haunted me. It sees you watching. It knows your fear. I reread them, heart hammering. Someone, or something, was aware of me. I tried to steady my breathing, telling myself I was imagining things, that the house was just old and creaky. But the shadows twisted unnaturally, and my dog growled low, hair bristling. I opened the journal again. One sketch caught my eye, a doorway drawn in meticulous detail, almost identical to the one in my hallway. Next to it, a single line, "The house tests the curious. Only those who are ready may enter." The words made my stomach twist. Was this a test? And if so, what would happen if I failed? Suddenly, a loud thump came from behind the door. My heart stopped. I hadn't touched it. The handle rattled slightly, like something on the other side was moving. I stumbled back, eyes wide. I could hear faint whispers now, almost forming words. Come in, my breath hitched. The journal slipped from my hands, pages fluttering as if caught in an invisible wind. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. But I also wanted to know. The mix of fear and curiosity was unbearable, twisting me inside out. I realized something terrifying. The door wasn't just in my house, it was in my mind. Every thought, every heartbeat was drawn to it. Then, a new message appeared on my phone. This one didn't come from a number I recognized. You can't turn back now. Choose wisely. My hands shook so violently that the phone slipped to the floor. The dog barked frantically, backing into a corner, eyes fixed on the door. I stepped closer, the floor creaking under every hesitant step. I reached for the handle. Just my fingertips touched the cold wood. A sudden flash of movement inside the door, a shadow, quick, darting, almost human, made me recoil. My pulse raced. I could feel a pull, a magnetic force urging me forward, and every instinct screamed both go and stay. The house seemed to vibrate, the air thick and electric. Whispers swirled louder, the journal pages rustling like dry leaves. My reflection in the nearby mirror flickered, showing a version of me that was different. Closer to the door now. I could see it clearly, a faint light leaking from the crack beneath it, pulsing alive, almost breathing. I froze. Every ounce of courage, every shred of rational thought was being tested. One more step, one more touch, and I would cross the threshold. I wanted to scream, to run, to call for help. But it felt too late. The house had chosen. The door had chosen. And now, so had I. I finally braced myself and turned the handle. The door creaked open slowly, revealing darkness that seemed to swallow the hallway light. My heart pounded, but curiosity pushed me forward. Then, as I stepped inside, the floor gave way beneath me. Not literally, but in a way that made the air feel like it shifted. The walls around me were no longer the familiar beige of my house. They glimmered with shadows that seemed almost alive, twisting, stretching, forming shapes I couldn't fully identify. A sudden voice echoed behind me. Not in the hallway, not from the shadows, but in my own mind. You shouldn't be here. It wasn't threatening. It was familiar. Terrifyingly familiar. I froze. The voice my grandmother's? I blinked and stumbled back, only to feel the floor tilt, the room expanding unnaturally, bending reality around me. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from my own number. Alex, you need to leave. It's not what you think. My chest tightened. My own number? My own words? I had no memory of sending it. The journal had warned me about meddling. But this was beyond anything I could have imagined. And then I saw it. A figure emerging from the darkness, unmistakable, tall, familiar. My grandmother, or a version of her. Her eyes were the same, but her expression was unreadable, almost hollow. You shouldn't have opened it, she whispered. But now that you have, there's no turning back. Panic surged. I wanted to run, but the room shifted, closing off any escape. The door behind me vanished, leaving only shadows. Then came a realization that froze me in place. The house hadn't been hiding the door from me. It had been guiding me. Every odd noise, every misplaced object, every whisper had led me here. And the most horrifying truth, the house, the door, my grandmother, none of it was just a memory or a story. It was alive, and it was waiting. As I tried to process this, the shadows twisted again, forming the outline of someone else. A figure I didn't recognize, but I felt connected to, like a memory from another life. They were watching me, waiting for me to make the wrong choice. Suddenly, I understood, whatever lay beyond this door wasn't just a room. It was a test of trust, courage, and morality. One wrong move, and the consequences would ripple far beyond my own fear. I could feel the pull of the unknown, the whisper of possibilities that shouldn't exist. And then, the final, most terrifying thought hit me. Maybe the house had been testing me all along, not to protect me, but to see if I was ready to take its place. I froze. The shadows leaned closer, and a cold wind whispered, "Now you decide." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every choice I had made pressing down on me. The shadows leaned closer, the cold wind brushing my face, whispering in a language I almost understood. My grandmother's figure stepped forward, holding out her hand, her eyes softer now, but still filled with an unspoken warning. "You've come this far. "Alex," she said, "the house tests those it deems capable. But the choice isn't easy. You can take its power or leave it behind." Power. The word echoed in my mind. All the odd events, the journal, the mysterious door, it had led me to this moment not to scare me, but to see if I was ready. If I reached for it, I'd gain access to knowledge, visions, perhaps abilities beyond human comprehension. But there was a cost. Staying would tie me to the house forever, bound to its walls, its memories, its shadows. Fear clawed at me. I thought of my life outside, the friends I had, the world I still belonged to. But then I remembered all the unanswered questions, the pull of the unknown that had haunted me since the door appeared. My hand hovered over the space between us, between fear and curiosity, safety and the unknown. I stepped back. "I can't," I whispered. The shadows recoiled slightly, and for a moment, the house seemed to sigh. The door, what would have been the door, rematerialized behind me, offering an escape. My grandmother smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and sorrow. "You chose wisely. The house releases those who are not ready." Relief and exhaustion flooded me. I stepped through the doorway, back into the familiar hallway. The shadows were gone, the cold air replaced by the warmth of home. The journal lay closed on the floor, as if nothing had changed. But my mind had shifted. I knew now that curiosity carried consequences. Some mysteries were tests, not invitations. I sank onto the couch, heart still racing, but a quiet thought lingered. Maybe the house wasn't just alive, it was selective, choosing who could inherit its secrets. And maybe, one day, someone else would face the same choice I had. Then my phone buzzed again. A message from my own number. My pulse quickened. I opened it and froze. "Congratulations. You passed." But the house never forgets. It remembers those who saw it, even if they walked away. I glanced at the hallway. The door was gone. The shadows were gone. The house looked ordinary, mundane, almost innocent. But I could feel it watching me. Patient. Waiting. And in that moment, I realized the test wasn't over. Perhaps it never truly would be. I smiled nervously, the thrill of survival mixed with the chill of uncertainty. I had won for now. The days after that night felt surreal. I walked through the house, each hallway familiar yet tinged with a new awareness. The door was gone, the shadows had vanished, and the strange energy that had filled the air felt distant, almost like a dream. And yet, I could feel the house watching me, quietly, patiently. It had tested me, and I had passed, but its presence lingered in ways I couldn't fully explain. I reflected on my journey, on the curiosity that had drawn me forward and the fear that had nearly frozen me in place. I realized that the house, the mysterious door, and even the shadows had been about more than fear or danger. They had been about choices, about understanding limits, recognizing consequences, and respecting mysteries that exist beyond our comprehension. I also thought about my grandmother. The woman I had known as eccentric, full of stories and riddles, had been preparing me all along. Her warnings, her journal, the tales of strange events, they were lessons in patience, courage, and moral responsibility. She hadn't left me alone. She had left me a path, one that required discernment and heart to navigate. I checked the journal one last time. The sketches and notes remained, but now they felt like a conversation with someone who had lived through the same trials. I smiled, understanding at last that some secrets aren't meant to be solved, they're meant to guide. I felt gratitude for the fear, the confusion, and the choices I had made. They had changed me, made me stronger, wiser, and more mindful of the unseen forces in life. Yet, even in this calm, a subtle thrill lingered. The house had released me, but it hadn't forgotten. I could sense it faintly in the creak of a floorboard or the whisper of a draft. Life returned to normal, or what I now considered normal, but with a new respect for the extraordinary hidden within the mundane. I learned that curiosity, when tempered by caution and empathy, could lead to growth instead of ruin. Standing in a hallway where the door once appeared, I whispered to myself, "Some doors aren't meant to be opened until you're ready." It was a reminder not just of the house, but of life itself. Challenges will appear, unexpected and unexplained, and our choices will define not only the outcomes, but who we become. I turned away from the hallway, feeling both relief and reverence. The house remained quiet, as if approving my decision, acknowledging my courage, and silently waiting for the next soul brave enough to face its mysteries. For anyone watching this story, I hope you remember, fear can teach, curiosity can guide, and wisdom often comes from restraint. Life will present doors we weren't expecting. Some will demand action, some patience, but every choice matters. Step carefully, choose wisely, and embrace the journey.